Hi again, everyone, and welcome to The Restaurant Show. This is episode number 8. I am your host, Christopher Wells. I'm very happy to have you here today. I come from the land of snow and really, really cold weather up in Canada, and it's about 20 degrees Celsius outside right now, so we've been waiting for this a long time over here, so it's been very nice for a couple of days. Summer is clearly upon us. I'll be taking a vacation to Europe for the first time in my life with my girlfriend next week, visiting France and Spain. Business has been crazy busy for the last 6 to 8 months, so I'm very happy. I'm very excited. I hope that you are as well. The gorgeous season is upon us. Summertime is here. Busy time for restaurants, for staff, for servers, for everybody. A good time to get busy, get people to know us, and to make money. So today I got a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get the show on the road. Okay, so the first item of business I want to chat with you today about, Mother's Day is upon us this weekend. It's always a great time to impress your guests, impress new guests. A lot of people that have never been at your restaurant or that don't go out often go out on Mother's Day, right? There's 3 days in the year where any restaurant should be busy, right? Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, a couple of others, but these three, if you can't get people in the door on those days, there's definitely something wrong, I think, with your business. There are days where people will just go anywhere to go out. So it's a perfect time to be ready to execute perfectly, to make sure that they want to come back. Okay, so these people, they either don't have money to go out and they go out on special occasions, or they prefer to, stay at home, or, there's people that are harder to get out to come and visit restaurants. So once they're in the door, it's time to really make sure our execution is flawless. Too many times people are just like, it's a very busy day, it's crazy, and, we just make a lot of money and hope for the best. I'm always advocating knowing your numbers and making sure that you're tight with your numbers as far as labor, as food costs, and all that. On this day, maybe not so much, okay? You want to make people angry? Treat their mother less than how they think should be appropriate, or make them wait, or not have their table ready. Don't mess with someone's mama. That's the best way to ruin relationships. It's the best way to get people angry to not visit your restaurant again. So on this day, Valentine's Day when they're with their lovers, Mother's Day when they take their mothers out, even Father's Day and stuff like that. There are moments where people want to they want to look good, in front of their, they want to do well for their mother. Most people really love their mamas. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of staff on the floor, whether it be to greet people, to make sure the tables are flipped properly, that people are sat, that the kitchen is executing right. I would, on this day or on the very important days of the year, suggest maybe overstaffing and having a reaction on the floor once you're busy, or once it quiets down, to make sure that people get cut and you're not using too many hours. But trying to do it on the safe side and then winding up ruining a few people's day is going to hurt your business so much more, right? I always talk about, it's about execution. It's about making sure that people get value for their money. But on days where they're, let's call them very emotional days for people, because they want to impress their moms, or they want to make them happy, they want to say thank you. Same thing with Valentine's or New Year's, where usually people celebrate with their loved ones or their significant others. You don't want to mess with those days. Those are days where it's time to impress, and it's time to convince people that they can trust you for special occasions that they have, right? So it could be Mother's Day this year, but it could be a birthday down the line, or a wedding, or whatever the event is. So make sure that you execute properly. So that means, if people are greeted at the door, and make sure that they know how long they'll have to wait, and that we're efficient, and that, we don't overbook, or just make sure people get a good experience, because otherwise those are days where you can really get new clientele, new people, new clients that maybe hadn't tried you before because their family decided to visit you. And if they're impressed with the experience they have, are definitely most likely to come back and spend time with you and spend money in your restaurant. So this Mother's Day, make sure you execute to the best of your ability, and therefore make sure you have more than enough staff see it as an investment, right? Even if you put in a few extra hours of labor, see it as an investment in making sure that you show yourselves on your best sides to potential regulars in your restaurant. And after Mother's Day, we are rolling right into summer. Summer season is coming. It's a perfect time to train your team. Make sure that we know who deserves to still be on the team, right? It's a great time to change those who don't want to be there. There's plenty of available labor for the summer, even though it's hard to find staff for restaurants. Most of the time in the summer, there's a lot of kids, a lot of young students that are looking for work. So there's plenty of available labor. It's a great time to train your team May, June, right before summer hits, whether it be on your menu, on wine, on cocktails. I've been distributing a cocktail and spirits class, and I've given it about a dozen times in the last month, and staff are so excited to learn that stuff and tools that they can learn, about different alcohols or whether it be wine, whatever it is. But it could be to train them on the way you want them to serve, or having systems in place to make sure that we're efficient and that people will get served in a timely fashion. But it's a great time to train them. So, if you had a lifeboat with 15 seats, I want you to picture who you would save on your staff. Oh, that sounds mean, but it's not a real boat that's crashing or that's going under. So think about it. If you have 30 staff and you could only save 15, which ones would you save? And you know what? Who would be the few that you wouldn't want to keep on board to keep working your business, right? Who don't you want in your lifeboat? That's a sign that these people, maybe it's time for them to move on. Maybe they don't bring value to you. Maybe you've kept them there for a while because habit, and they've been there for a while, but they're probably hurting your business more than you realize. So if they don't want to be there and you don't think they should be there, there's probably reasons behind that, and it's probably time to move on and make sure that you have a solid team that's excited to work together, that's excited to provide value and a great experience to your guests. Also, make sure you don't forget the influence that we have on our people, long term as well, right? Not just while they work for us, but sometimes we get so stuck in the day-to-day grind of running our business that we forget the kind of impact we can have as leaders on our staff, on who they are, on who they become, on what they do in their lives. So that's actually one of the maybe most gratifying things about our work, is the kind of impact we can have on these people. And I remember I was a general manager for a large pizza chain about 12 years ago, and I guess maybe 10 years ago, 10, 12. And I had a young server who had never worked as a server before. She was hired, strictly on personality, because I thought that she had a very charming personality, and with the guests as well as with the team, and very, team focused, and wanted to help as much as she could. She came to me after a couple of weeks. The restaurant had opened. It was a brand new opening. And she quit because she said she wasn't any good and she couldn't figure it out. So I sat down with her, looked at what her what her issues were, and offered some tips on how maybe she could find the serving job a little bit better, a little easier. So she went back, and after a long chat, she decided to give it another try, and went back on the floor for maybe 2-3 weeks, and then eventually, things were going well, and I guess she had one rough night, so she decided to quit again. So I sat down with her again, and I said, listen, I'm not going to let you quit. I think you have great talent. If you like this job, if you like this, I'll spend more time with you. So I actually went on the floor with her and helped her out in her next shift to give her, tips and all that. And then I guess she worked for 3-4 months, and everything was going fine. And she was a great part of the team. And I guess maybe she was hard on herself as far as, if she had a tough table or a tough guest one night, I guess she took it maybe a little more personal than some others would. So eventually she came to me and she said, Chris, I guess maybe you'd been working 5 months on the floor at that point. She said, I just can't do this. I stress about it. I can't sleep. Can I go work in the kitchen? Now, server, easier to train sometimes in the kitchen for somebody who has no experience. But I said, hey, I want you on my team. You've given this a couple of shots. You want to stay with the restaurant. You want to stay with the business. I'll help you get in the kitchen and see how that works for you. She jumped in the kitchen and a fish to water. She was really good, very quickly, showed some leadership, was always in a good mood, helping the whole attitude of the kitchen get better. She was happy because I guess maybe working directly with people was too stressful for her, but working with the staff in the back and still that same rush, that same excitement when you get very busy, but she didn't have to face the end user. She became a superstar in the kitchen, and I eventually left that job and went back to visit the staff maybe 6 months to a year later, and she came out running out of the kitchen to come and greet me, and proudly started pointing at her shirt, at her chef coat that said kitchen manager. So not only had she gone from no experience a year and a half before to becoming within a year and a half a kitchen manager because of how she took to it and all that. And I was very proud of her and for her to sticking with it and making the best of the opportunity that she had. But most of all, I realized how much of an impact we have on people. Had I decided to let her quit originally, maybe she would have, gone to another serving job somewhere else or completely quit the business and maybe went into retail or something else, right? Or I don't know if she would have been happy doing that, but I know that she was very happy and very proud to have made it to the position that she was in. So I really started thinking about the kind of impact that we have on our people. And then recently, previous to my experience in that restaurant, I'd managed a couple of McDonald's restaurants. And I saw one of my old employees a while back who now works in radio as a broadcaster. And he told me something. He said, I always think about, when the end of my shift comes, I always think that you used to say it smells like beer. And I told him, what do you mean? And he said, well, when we used to empty the grease from the fryers and all that, there's a big grease trap in the back of the restaurant. It smells pretty horrible. If anybody's ever played in a grease trap or in one of those containers, it can, it's a pretty foul stench. But he said, every time we used to do that, I would complain. He said, you would tell me, can you smell that, kid? It smells like beer. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, that's the last thing we do at the end of the shift. So when we're doing this, it means that the next step is we're going to be going to have a drink after this. So whenever I do that, I'm not thinking it smells bad. I'm thinking it smells like beer because my beer is getting closer and closer. It means it's the end of the shift. And he says, whenever I work and I, I'm doing something I don't like to do, or I'm doing a task that's not as fun as what I'd like to be doing, I tell myself it smells like beer, and it always makes, gets me through the day and always makes me think of you. And I was pretty flattered. I said, 10 years later, something that I didn't even remember telling him that, but something I told you that long ago, you still, it still motivates you every day when you work. Again, reminding me that, our impact goes far beyond managing a restaurant day to day. I worked with a GM recently that had a server that had longstanding, alcohol and drug issues. And one of the, best employees on the staff for, pretty much a pillar of the restaurant, but his problems would cause, him to miss shifts or stuff like that. And that general manager didn't want to see that person go, and eventually sat him down and told them, I'll give you support to get your life on track, and allowed him some time off to go and get better, and invested time into him and chatting with him, and obviously not a professional in the addiction department, but just being there to say, listen, I care about you. I need you. I want you on my team. I want you to get better. Here's how I want to support you. But that person 2 years later has been has been clean, has been working hard, has been again a great part of the team, and so thankful to that general manager for having done that work. And having been there to listen and respect. So he became even much more respectful of the business and much more, I guess, implicated or attached to the business. And we say it's hard to get staff in the restaurant business, but sometimes when you take a little bit of time to listen to people, to maybe support them, obviously if they're good to you, in a sense that if they bring value to your business, sometimes maybe giving time or an ear to people until they get better is simpler than actually going out and finding employees that'll be as good as they are. So our impact goes way above and beyond anything that we can do in the restaurant. And that's the most gratifying part of what I've ever done as a restaurant manager, is having people come up to me 5, 10, 15 years later and saying, remember when you told me I should sweep the broom, use the broom properly and do the job to the best that I can and do it with excellence. Well, you know what? I still apply these things in my work today, and thank you for kicking my butt back then, because it made me a better worker today. So it's not just about the shift, the everyday shift and the numbers and all that, and managing the restaurant, but we have a chance to work with people, and we have a chance to impact their life greatly. So don't forget the kind of impact you can have on your team, and take an extra second sometimes. You know what? If you want them on your team, if they're worth your while, if they're good for the business, if they're people you like to be around, take time to see what you can do to help them develop as a person. It might not be in your business. It might be 5, 10 years down the road, but hey, you're there doing the job. If we can make the world a little bit better by spending time and helping people, why not? And I tell you, you will, when somebody comes back and tells you how much they appreciate something you've done for them or how you've impacted their life, it is the most gratifying thing I've ever lived working in restaurants. And now we move to the restaurant building block mention of the week. So Restaurant Building Block is my business where I do coaching, training, consulting, keynote speaking, anything related to the restaurant industry. And I like to do a little mention of the week, to a little shout out to a restaurant that went above and beyond to impress guests and to do something special for them. So this week I want to talk about my hometown, Montreal, a restaurant called Tapeo. So a little neighborhood restaurant that opened up, I guess, almost 15 years in the business now. So the two partners who opened it up used to work for a Montreal institution called Ferrera Cafe downtown Montreal. And they opened up their business, like I said, one of the first little tapas restaurant in Montreal. Now they're everywhere, but when they did it, they were really, ahead of the curve. I guess early 2000s would have been when they opened up. And they had a really big crowd of regulars. They still do. They're still very busy. They do have, I think they have a second restaurant now close by to where the first one is. But they opened up and they became very popular very quickly. And the story, the RBB mention of the week is about an article I read in the newspaper where one of the regulars wrote in to tell us their story. They had, the lady had made a reservation for her husband's birthday. So I guess they'd been regulars for, a couple of months, maybe a year, since the restaurant had opened, would go there as often as they could. She made a reservation for his birthday. They, wanted to celebrate it in their new favorite restaurant. When they showed up, and we were talking pre-online reservation, right? You're talking 15 years ago almost. So I guess we're still using, the book by hand and all that, or taking notes down. So they showed up and they didn't have their reservation, and the restaurant's packed and there's no room and there's no tables for at least 2 or 3 hours, and there's really nothing they can do to fit them in. Obviously, the lady was very disappointed. It surprised her boyfriend or husband for his birthday dinner. So what they did is that they said, "Listen, we are so sorry that you can't dine with us, but we want to take care of you, and we want to send you to where we used to work, because we know how you'll be treated, how you'll be received, and it's on us." So what they did is they called a cab. They called their old stopping ground for a cafe, asked for a table for two, told them they were sending special guests, that they wanted to take the bill. So they send them down by cab to downtown, which is probably a solid $30-$40 cab ride. Took the bill for their whole meal, and then paid for their cab back to their restaurant, so that they could come back and have a late night drink with them after the shift at the end of the night, and to again tell them how sorry they were, that they had lost their reservation. So this couple went to this really even higher end restaurant than theirs, and probably like a $300-$400 meal with the cab ride. So maybe a $500 investment for the restaurant, but they got a half page mention in one of the biggest French newspapers in Montreal, and are still in business 15 years later, which tells me that their focus on their guests, I guess, has always been very important to them. But I was always impressed that they were sharp enough to think that, it's not just about, say, we're sorry, we don't have room, I hope you come back and see us, but saying, listen, you're regulars here, we want to take care of you, and took it out, out of their pocket to send them to another restaurant. But also were smart enough to bring him back, I guess, for a drink at the end of the night, to make sure that they, you could tie in the whole evening, ask them how their meal was, and make sure that they want to come back and see you. And I am pretty positive that couple were regulars for quite the longest time in that restaurant, and maybe they still are today. I'd be curious to ask the owner if he remembers that story, and if that couple is still a regular. So that was the RBB mention of the week. And to close this episode of the Restaurant Show, I want to talk about my little pet peeve of the week. I did these little pet peeves a while back in some other episodes, and had one that really is a little irritating to me. So obviously, social media, super important for restaurants, especially if you use, you don't have to go crazy with that stuff. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are some nice ones, Pinterest maybe. But even if you just use Facebook, you have to be careful with some stuff you do, right? Think about this. People want to see how your restaurant is. They want to get an idea for the vibe, for the kind of people that are there, how they're going to feel if they go and spend money and visit your restaurant. Too many restaurants focus on what they're offering as far as menu goes, as far as special goes. And one thing that I see so many restaurants do very poorly is, posting their lunch special menu on Facebook. So they put a little description and, spaghetti with meat sauce for $8.95, or, whatever it is, halibut with rice for $16.95. And I get this little bland description. I follow, I don't know how many hundreds of restaurants on Facebook to see how they do their social media. The good ones and the bad ones. And I often see these little descriptions, and even some of them will have a picture, but it can be sometimes just a bad picture that's taken in the kitchen, or make sure that you look at the picture, see what's around it, see what the angle is like. You want to take a picture from the angle that I would see the dish. If you take it from the angle of the table, sometimes it looks weird and all that. So it's very hard, and just writing down as text like what's on your specials, it's so uninteresting. Like, I care that you have a spaghetti or a burger. Everybody has a burger. That's not going to bring me into your business. Unless you do a special burger, you take a picture of it, you post it on a table, or have one of your, sexy servers holding it, or take a picture on a table next to a beer or something like that that can entice me to come and visit you. But a bland description, text, type text of your menu, at least, and I've made the suggestion to a few restaurants and they did switch it and it looked better. Instead of just typing down your menu, if you can make have a picture and of your restaurant and type on top of it, if you're good with with Photoshop or something like that. Or some people have the like a board where they write the menu. Take a picture of the board. It already has more texture, more life than just plain text. But honestly, a description, unless you do something really special, something different that you want to advertise, your regular, pasta of the day or sandwich of the day or whatever the dish is are not going to bring me into your restaurant. Show me a patio, show me the view, show me the sun, show me a server. You can even use video and have somebody that has a nice personality that wants to talk about, your specials of the day. But just a list of them, I see so many of them, and none of them really attract me to go in and visit you. So if you're going to do something, make it sexy, make it nice, and just don't, write your specials on your Facebook page. It has no value, even though you think, well, it's free. Well, it's free and it's crap in that case. So it just doesn't look good and it just doesn't bring people in. Guarantee you, if you ask anybody in your dining room at lunch, so was it our post about the spaghetti that brought you in? I'd be surprised if you find one person that says yes. So get creative and just make me want to go visit you. A list of your items won't do that. So to close it out, thank you very much for spending a few minutes with me listening to the Restaurant Show, episode number 8. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you got value out of it. If you did, please take a second to share this on your social media with some friends, wherever you want. Let's share. Sharing is caring, is what they say. So I'd appreciate it if you enjoy this. The more visibility I can get with this podcast and the more people I can share it with, the happier I will be, making it worth my while to put them together. So if you get any value, please don't hesitate to share. And if you have any comments, please leave them wherever you've seen this, whether it's on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Don't hesitate to leave me your comments to let me know what you think. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great Mother's Day this weekend, and that the summer, or the early summer, is treating you well. Can't wait to meet you down the road. Have a great day. Thank you for listening. Go and execute and impress your guests.